if you're not a competitive shooter, you probably want the most reliable optic on your most reliable firearm for self-defense or for a duty.
I don't think anybody's going to argue with that.
Okay, so if that's the case, like I said, I don't know how many times I've dropped my RMR sprinting around up and down hills. I can tell you, not just from my personal experience, but I mean, it's pretty well known that like that's the go-to. Maybe not for window size, but for raw durability. And my point is, if I wanted a family member or a close friend to like set up a gun, I'd say go get yourself a Glock, put an RMR on it. That's it.
Call it good. Yeah.
Not even any of my Train with Purpose products. Just an RMR that's going to survive an Armageddon, and then a stock Glock, right? Because most people won't even know how to outshoot or feel the differences between a Glock and something else like a staccato that does shoot better. You know what I mean? And by the way, probably isn't as reliable. So my point in saying all this is that like, there's a couple things. The firearms community especially should be held under a higher standard because A, we're supposed to be patriotic. This is probably the most patriotic community and like business like space that there is, right? Because you have so much military and law enforcement and freedom fighting going on, whether that's for just, being censored, being able to speak freely or, owning firearms or whatever it is. If that's the case, then why are you buying nothing but cheap China-made stuff, which is essentially, from what I've collected, giving other countries money and possibly our enemy, right?
I can't argue that.
You would assume this would be the most self-aware group of people, right? And then you have these people with hundreds of thousands or millions of followers / views doing China optic stuff.
Right. So
I'm just like, what?
Look, JP, I'm playing along here. I think I share a lot of the same sentiments, and the comparison I would make. Well, first off, I want to call attention to the word you used, or the phrase you just said, that about these companies being held more accountable, the firearms community, again, products community being held more accountable. My question to that would be, it's a bit rhetorical, is who's responsible for that? Right? Should it be the companies? Because as soon as you start doing that, it's like asking the government to self-govern itself.
No. It's the game, dude. It's the civilians, the consumer, whatever, military, it doesn't matter. The consumer that's buying everything and then getting a hard on when they get a 10% discount code, you're pushing these shit lights and these shit optics, who I can't even believe I've seen law enforcement people run some of these lights that have been proven to be shit. Not only are they foreign made, not to sound super fucking America, but like not only are they foreign made, but dude, like they're just not the best Candela. They're not the best lumens. They're not the best weapons manipulations. And people are running them because A, they're cheap, and B, so many influencers have given them the green light that they feel less bad about being a cheap ass.
Right. So there's a lack of awareness, right? Or they've not bothered to become more aware. They've taken somebody else's word for it. That comes back to accountability. And so as much as the firearms manufacturers, or again, equipment, let's say vendors, need to be held accountable to that, so does the consumer.
I think more so the consumer.
I would agree with you 100%. Yeah. So this is, we can draw a parallel between this and the fitness industry, right? So if I go back 8 years, 10 years ago, with where the fitness industry was specific to social media and the stuff that's being pumped out through social media about this is the best exercise, this is the best supplement, this is the best diet, and whatever else. So we go back then, anybody could get on and say anything, and they were an automatic expert if they got on with their shirt off and they had abs, right? Or they post the booty pic, right? This is the supplement I use, this is the exercise I do, this is the freaking shorts or clothes that I wear or whatever else. And this is what got me here, right? When we all knew that, not all of us, where a good number of us knew that was bullshit, right? Yeah. And from an industry perspective, right? And I'm not going to take away from the consumers. Not every consumer is buying into that shit, but we watched how much of that happened. There's a
good amount of
it,
right?
Because it got so popular. I mean, the fitness industry lives on Instagram right now. This is where it is. But what had happened was over time, they began to be held accountable, and they were being held accountable by first the people in the industry going, these people are idiots. Stop listening to this. But the voices, that low barrier of entry voice, right, with the shirtless pic and the booty pics were still louder. They were getting more attention. They were getting more likes. There was more sizzle behind that. And that had to happen for a long time. While still the industry was like, we're trying to be as loud as we can. We're trying to call people out by not calling maybe them out directly. However, that's happened now, by calling the consumer out directly and saying, please don't listen to this. Don't believe this. They're going to try to sell you this all day long. They're going to sell you the fit tea, and it's garbage. It's diarrhea tea. That's what it is. But enough people had to get diarrhea before they realized all these fit teas are bullshit. And now it's the consumer, right, that's saying the fit teas are bullshit, right? And the fitness industry doesn't have to say much about that anymore. Fitness and diet industry doesn't have to say about that anymore. But it took a long time for that to happen.
How much older is the fitness industry, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I'm comparing like where the fitness industry was 8 or 10 years ago. I think that's where the firearms industry is right now.
And I always come back to this where I say, I don't know why people don't talk about how young the firearms industry is.
It's in its infancy. I mean, while it's one of our longest standing, constitutional rights, and largely a part of why we are the United States of America, right? The industry and its popularity is in its infancy. I mean, right? So I agree with you.
Well, 100%. Dude, at SHOT Show, they're releasing things like there's so much innovation on night vision. Do you think that's because of the military, or do you think that's because all of our friends have $10,000, $15,000 nods?
Yeah, and it's not. Yeah, these are not kids buying this stuff. No. Right. It's being driven purely by the civilian community. Right. Why? Because they're using it in their video games. Yeah. But they're also seeing it being peddled, right, through Instagram, right, or through social media. I do that. I'm a business owner. You're a business owner. I'm not saying I don't. I'm going to represent my product where I can, where it's free to do so and whatever else. There's nothing wrong with that. To your point, it's being driven by the consumer demand, and that consumer is your general population.
It's the problem of the consumer.
And it's, again, the old adage, buyer beware, right? And make sure you've said this a million times at this point, so kind of ad nauseum. You need to know where your shit's coming from. You need to learn about it, and you need to know who's selling it to you. And if you can't get in front of the person that's selling it to you to ask them questions, and all you're going through is the guy with 1,500 followers or 1,000 followers that's posting, because he gets a,
ambassador,
Train with Purpose 10, or whatever. That's not a good way to be making investments, particularly when they have to do with potentially life-saving or life-threatening situations.